Okay, we're here with ESPN producer Paul Hembo, who works on Get Up and has done a couple other great things for the company. And Paul, thank you so much for joining today. He's also a best-selling author, and I do have one of his books in my possession. So, Paul, thank you so much. And how has everything been for you as you're getting ready for this exciting time for the Super Bowl? And now the baseball offseason's heating up with some Valdez news. Are the Yankees and Mets gonna get over the hump? There's definitely a lot of stuff to discuss.
No doubt about it. This has been, first of all, it's good to see you, buddy. I'm excited to talk ball with you today. This has been about as entertaining a baseball offseason as I can remember because it was a steady trickle. I think there's a good faith argument to be made that maybe baseball would benefit from creating some of these artificial start and end dates in the course of their offseason to be able to sort of spur action and drive public interest. But that really wasn't much of a problem this offseason. It seemed like teams sort of bell to bell were fairly active, and some of the trades and some of the signings we've seen here in the last week or two have been just as entertaining as the signings that we saw in early November. So I'm definitely here for it.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting thing. There's a lot of peaks and valleys with the off season. There's times that it's terrible, like, oh, can we get some action? Like we haven't seen anything in weeks. Then all of a sudden you get a week where you see all these trades and signs like, oh, this is pretty cool, like this, that, like we're expecting this. So it's definitely a roller coaster of emotions. So give me your reaction to Framber Valdez and how you think it impacts Skubal and stuff. I think that's the most relevant thing to start with today because we've been going deep into this Skubal case. I've covered some Tigers stuff and I've interviewed him before, so I'm interested to see what you think.
Yeah, fascinating on two fronts. The who, in this case, the Tigers, and the when, in this case, the same exact day that they took Tarik Skubal to
Yeah.
arbitration. I mean, the cynic in me says this is the Tigers sort of having their cake and eating it too. On one hand, you obviously understand that from a public, relations perspective, taking Tarik Skubal to arbitration over $13 million is a nightmare, and the Tigers know that. But they're trying to run a business, and it's obviously well within their purview to behave in that manner. On the other hand, they obviously have plenty of money with which to operate. They've not spent much in recent years, and Framber Valdez provides them, at least at the front end of the rotation, for 1 year, presumably alongside Tarik Skubal, as dominant a 1-2 punch as you're certainly going to have in that division, and even potentially in the entire American League. I mean, this was a team that was awfully close to advancing to the ALCS a year ago. And look, if you had Framber Valdez on that team, they might well have beaten Seattle in that series. But on the other hand, I'm not so sure that this guarantees that Tarik Skubal is going to stay with the team. I mean, that has been the presumption, I suppose, all along, or at least once the Mets traded for Freddie Peralta. But here now we're sitting in a position where they could theoretically be more inclined to move Tarik Skubal because they have built the off-ramp, in this case, 3 years of Framber Valdez, hooking up with his former manager, of course, and A.J. Hinch. And I don't think that Tarik Skubal, probably on $32 million, potentially on 19 for 1 year, and all the prospects that it's going to take to get him is something that all that many teams at this juncture are going to be willing to swallow. I think if they do move him, it's likelier to be before the trade deadline. Although at this point, the leader in the clubhouse, you might say, is the two of those guys pitching all season long for the Tigers and very likely making a playoff push.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's an all-in move for the Tigers for 1 year to maximize what Skubal could do with Valdez. I love the move. I think it makes perfect sense because, like you said, they have the money to spend. They need an upgrade in the rotation to kind of give that second guy because the other guys were kind of not really twos, more like threes and fours. There's some back-end guys like Job going down was tough. Reese Olson's been hurt a lot. But, now you have Valdez, you have Mize, you have Flaherty, and you have Olson, and you have other options too. So now they have a bunch of depth. If Tarik stays, they can be one of the best teams in the American League for sure. I'd like to see them add a righty bat somewhere. That'd be my only complaint, maybe. And then McConnell getting called up will be exciting too. But for Tarik, it's going to be fascinating to see how this case goes because it's really unprecedented. 19 to 32, it looks crazy. The optics are worse than what it actually is because Valdez is a free agent and Skubal's arbitration. It's two different things, and that's what people kind of got to figure out here.
Yeah, that's 100% right. I mean, the average fan might be too dense to parse the way that you just did. Perhaps they're coming from good faith, perhaps they're not. Fans are more than welcome to feel and say whatever they feel and choose to say. I do understand optically the sort of sports talk radio side of things is look at the Tigers, cheapening one of the greatest players in the history of the franchise. Meanwhile, they're going to give Framber Valdez a basically record contract in free agency. These are
Yeah.
two very different things. If I had my druthers, what I would have liked to have seen the Tigers do is more than meet Tarik Skubal halfway for 1 year. I would have offered him something like a $27.5 million 1 year contract and to be able to avoid this whole mess. Because what I don't like, and I'd be curious to see if you agree with me, I don't like the fact that this relationship has become so publicly transactional.
Yeah.
Think about this a year ago. Vlad Jr. gets 14 for 500. It really set the entire tone for what they did. I would love to see the Tigers try and do that now. I don't think they're likely to because obviously he's a Boris client.
Yeah,
He's going to command something like 10 for 430. At least that's my projection.
I
And
like
we know that
that.
the Tigers don't typically swim in those waters, but I do believe that there would have been an opportunity for them, even from the perspective of just 1 year, to smooth things over with an iconic player who someday might have a statue out there, at least if he decides to stay beyond this year.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Like I kind of agree with you. Could we have met in the middle of the 25 to 26 range maybe just to make it look a little bit better? I understand what Scubal's asking for. You've never had a guy in ARB, correct me if I'm wrong, win back-to-back Cy Youngs, I don't think. So this is kind of a very interesting situation. So I understand both sides. The Tigers still offered a record deal, but like we've been saying, their finances are fine. Even if he gets the extra money, they're still not even at the first luxury tax tier. They can still afford to add more, which is why I like the Valdez move. It doesn't hurt them at all, really, and it gives them good insurance in case Skubal walks. And he's familiar with AJ Hinch, so if you had any questions with the clubhouse concerns, like that should be a good spot to put him into.
Yeah, I want to underscore the point that you just made. It's a well-made one. So let's think about the way in which Framber Valdez's season ended. An ERA north of 6 across his last 10 starts. You leave a bad taste in the mouths of teams that are potentially interested in signing you for that reason and that reason alone. But you and I both remember the cross-up with Cesar Salazar, and the optics of that were just awful. And Framber Valdez and his agent tried getting ahead of it at the winter meetings, as you'll recall. But it
Yeah,
obviously was the kind of thing that at least scared off, at least best I can tell, some teams, maybe those that were
I
on the
agree.
periphery. But the fact that it's AJ Hinch's team that signed him leads me to believe that all that stuff is at least mostly, if not largely, overblown. I can't tell you with any experience what kind of guy Framber Valdez
Me
is,
either.
the extent to which he positively or negatively impacts a clubhouse. What I do know is that that guy throws bowling balls, that he's a really tough pitcher to hit against. And in game 2 of a playoff series, I feel pretty good about handing him the baseball and him getting 15 or 18 outs for me.
I agree with you 100%. Like, if you have him and Tarik in a short series with a Mize and a Flaherty, that looks pretty good. That's one of the better rotations you could throw out there in a short series. So, the Tigers made a good step. We'll see what they can do. So, you did bring up the Yankees kind of because it was against that Yankees when Valdez had that weird situation. So, we could transition. You did a really cool video on Cody Bellinger that you shared with us about how he crushes lefties and why you like the deal. So, like, do you think the Yankees got a steal or like it's good value? Like, how do you overall feel about that?
I've had a very complicated relationship with Cody Bellinger. He doesn't know it.
Yeah.
But Cody Bellinger has gone from being a player whom I loved when he was winning MVPs, of course, with the Dodgers, flashing precocious skill, like Hall of Fame level trajectory stuff, to going to a place where the Dodgers couldn't even stomach paying him anymore, so they DFA'd him, to a place in which he rehabilitates himself in Chicago, at least temporarily, to a place in which they basically had to give him away, and the Yankees took him on as effectively a salary dump. And to
Yep.
now a place where I'm here lauding the Yankees for giving him the 5-year contract that they did, because I'm fully bought back in. And not because of the all-around nature of his game. I mean, I think it's always been fairly apparent that he runs well, he can field well, and he can play multiple positions at an average to high level. And there's obviously an inordinate amount of value in that. It's a manager's best friend. A player like Cody Bellinger is a manager's best friend. I've long, though, believed that Cody Bellinger's bat was going to be the thing that prevents him from being the player that he ever could be, or the player that he at least flashed for a time with the Dodgers. And over the course of the last 3 years, he has demonstrated the kind of skills and the kind of meaningful improvements that lead me to believe that Cody Bellinger is going to age fairly well, because it's a player whose swing is perfectly suited for the stadium in which he's going to be playing now for the next 5 years, at least theoretically. It's a hitter who has improved so much against left-handed pitching that what it indicates to me is that he's so much more sound mechanically than he once was. It's not just the fact that he matches lefties from the perspective of exposure, but from the perspective of his pitch recognition and from the discipline that you now see from his front hip and all these things that hitting guys talk about as being so critical in platoon matchups like that. So those are both really encouraging things. And so when you sort of combine all the attributes of his game, I don't think the Yankees necessarily made out like a bandit here, or you would call it as
Yeah.
being a steal. I think it's a perfectly fine and team-friendly contract, and it's also a contract that, at least in the short term, the player and his agent should feel good about. But I think there are plenty of people online that go to his, baseball savant page, look at some of the blue sliders, and
Yeah.
laugh at Brian Cashman for being behind the 8 ball here. I just steadfastly disagree with those people, because I think the
Okay.
density with which you look at those numbers at face value is far beneath what Brian Cashman and his front office is doing. I generally believe that Cash is in his bag right now, knowing what the player's like. He's not giving 5 years to a player
He
who
doesn't
he just
know.
had a year to
Yeah.
observe and didn't believe in the work ethic, didn't believe in the discipline, didn't believe in any of the ancillary things that we can't see publicly. Even though not all the metrics love Cody Bellinger, in my judgment, judgment, enough of the metrics do, and the trajectory is such that that 5-year deal is a perfectly team-friendly one that I think will age at least somewhat well.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of like a neutral thing. Like I feel like it's interesting because we don't know who else is really in it, and the Yankees probably had the highest offer by a lot. So I understand people would be like, oh, they kind of bet against themselves. But then again, Boris is looking for all this, and they did bring him down a few years. So like, I think it's a win-win. Like you said, it's kind of like a neutral thing. Like we'll see if he can improve. Last year was like a better one of his better years in recent seasons. He's been such a roller coaster. Like it is tough to judge like how you feel about it, but we'll have to see how it looks. It definitely benefits him in the short term with those opt outs just in case, but he's getting a lot of money too.
Yeah, that there's no question. All in all, I think it's a win for the team, a win for the player. I'm not so sure I feel great about years 4 and 5, but for the next 3 seasons,
Same.
I'm fairly confident that Cody Bellinger can sort of approximate an 8 to 10 win player across those 3 years. And if he does that, it's a contract that Brian Cashman will be more than happy sleeping at night, knowing that he inked into.
So do you view him as the second bat behind Aaron Judge? Because that's one thing I was looking at. Like, who's going to be that second bat behind Aaron Judge? Who's going to be the Robin? Obviously, because Judge had a great postseason last year, which is overlooked unfortunately because of how they played overall. But if Judge can continue to do that and they could get more production from other pieces, they might still be able to do some damage in October. Like, I'll kind of two-part you here. Like, who do you think is Judge's Robin? Who do you think emerges as that? And like, how do you view the Yankees in the landscape of the American League right now?
So I want to answer both of those questions, but you're the subject matter expert here. You watch the Yankees infinitely more than I do. I'm a Phillies fan. I obviously study these things numerically, but you're much better equipped than I am to answer the question how the Yankees should stack the first half of their lineup. So why don't you run by me right now? They put you in the dugout. You're
Okay.
stacking that lineup 1 through 4. How you'd build it against righties and against lefties, and then I'll sort of off the top of my head, based on the information that I have numerically and the sort of gut that I have seen in terms of Aaron Judge's career and the way that he impacts the guy hitting before and after him, I'll sort of get my gut reaction there. But I'm most curious, before I sort of prejudice the jury here, how you'd stack this lineup, given the fact that I think I view some of these hitters perhaps differently than many Yankees fans do.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be an interesting way to do it. I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to actually lead off Bellinger. I'm not going to lead off Grisham. I'm going to lead off Bellinger. I'm going to put Judge 2. We're going to try to attack them early and often here. We're going to put Ben Rice 3rd, and we'll put Stanton 4, and then Chisholm 5 or something like that, or like Grisham in that 5 to 6 area. And then you'll have your Volpes, your Caballeros, your Wells.
The most interesting thing that you said is that you put Jazz Chisholm 5th. I think Jazz Chisholm is, at least in that stadium, in this lineup, someone that might be worth considering hitting in the top third of that order this season.
Okay, that's fair.
I feel strongly about this. So when I did my top 10 rankings for ESPN.com, with which I work with Buster Olney on these,
Yeah.
I had Jazz Chisholm as the number 2 second baseman in the sport. We know that he can
Okay.
play the position representatively. That obviously has no impact on where he hits in the lineup. But the more and more that I peel back the onion, the more and more attracted I am to his offensive profile. I'm not so sure that I wouldn't hit Jazz Chisholm either first or third. What matters most is not who's hitting behind Aaron Judge. What matters most is hitting who's hitting, in front of Aaron Judge. Because look, you're enough of a ball knower to know that protection typically does come from the front. What matters most is Aaron Judge hitting with men on base or not hitting with men on base. And because Cody Bellinger's greatest skill is not his ability to draw walks and to get on base, to scratch a high on base percentage, I think I'd be more inclined to hit Cody 4th or 5th in this lineup.
That's fair.
And I'd be more inclined to use Ben Rice higher. I'd be more inclined to use Jazz higher, or maybe even Grisham higher. Obviously, Grisham doesn't run terribly well, but Trent Grisham is going to run it on base at 340 or 350. And in my judgment, when you're stacking out this lineup, I agree with you that Aaron Judge belongs second. The player who's going to reach base most frequently is the guy that should be leading off the New York Yankees.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to jumble because, like, maybe it could be Rice. He might be a guy to do it. That might not be a bad plan. Grisham, I just don't like how the season ends in October, so I kind of want to like shuffle that off because like it wasn't a great ending with him leading off. That's the only reason why. But it's a small sample size. I get that argument as well.
What concern do you have about the lack of righties in the lineup?
Yes.
Because the one thing that you might push back on and say is, for as good as the Yankees lineup was last year, and objectively it was the best one in the sport, at least by most standards of measure. It is a lineup that is not without flaws, in part because Aaron Judge is really your only righty that you have much respect for. And in the context of a playoff series, or in the context of a game in which you're facing high-level competition or right-handed velocity or this, that, or the other, I do wonder if that hurts you again this year, because that's not something that Brian Cashman has addressed. You and I both like the Cody Bellinger fit, but one of the reasons why I was all in on the Yankees signing Bichette is because I thought Bo Bichette would have complemented Aaron Judge beautifully atop that lineup. And the Yankees have, for the first time in a long time, become too left-handed heavy. God forbid, Giancarlo Stanton misses time with some injury that he typically does. And
Yes, he
at that
will.
point, Aaron Judge is literally the
On an
only
island.
right-handed bat in your lineup. And for as good as that right-handed bat is, you can't really do much about what it's going to do in the bottom half of it. So the lack of right-handed clout in the Yankees lineup to me still remains something that Brian Cashman needs to worry about. And I don't love some of the guys, some of the lefties, particularly Ryan McMahon. And what you'll look and look at the end of the day here, scoring runs is the most important thing. But when your team as good as the Yankees are, how you score runs, especially how you score runs against good pitching, is going to matter a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, I actually agree with basically all of that. And good shot with McMahon. That third base area, which is like a gray area to me, still Rosario McMahon.
Don't like the player.
I don't love it either. I was a Suarez guy. I would have rather seen him get Eugenio Suarez actually, and that would have balanced the lineup better. I know he has a lot of Ks, but like if you're paying them the same amount of money, I'd much rather have Gino than McMahon, and that's kind of how it worked out, which was interesting.
Yeah, the Yankees, I think, on paper, have one of the worst left sides of the infield of any contending team in the sport.
It's not
What you
good.
guys saw last year was when Ryan McMahon came over, he hit a little bit right away. He demonstrated that he has the ability to go get it at the third base position. But the floor of the bat is so low.
It's
Ryan
bad.
McMahon can't hit. He's not an everyday player. He's very much like Brian Hayes, who the
Yeah.
third baseman for the Cincinnati Reds. And what the Reds just did is exactly what you would have done if you were
Yeah,
in the Yankees.
I would have had
Time,
Suarez in there.
you Eugenio Suarez play third base, and what you then do is you use McMahon defensively. You hit him against certain righties. You mix and match in that capacity. But I think giving 1,200, 1,300 at bats to Ryan McMahon and the combination of Jose Caballero and Anthony Volpe is putting a lot of
Yeah.
weight on the top third of that lineup to mash. And God forbid Aaron Judge gets hurt. God forbid a hitter or two regresses at the top of the order. And all of a sudden, that's a freaking black hole.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was into Bichette as well. Like when it came out, the Yankees were interested. I didn't think they'd go in there, but like when they said they were interested, I'm like, you might as well do it. It would have been a great Judge compliment. Those two could have really gone off each other, almost like how he and Vladdy did it a little bit in Toronto, and that worked out pretty well, obviously. So I mean, it would have been really cool to see. The Mets gave him a huge deal, and the defensive fit is clunky, but I definitely think the Yankees need to get a righty bench bat somewhere. I don't know what else is really left. There's some type of trade I'm not thinking about. Nothing's going to be too inspiring at this point. You're talking about like Grichuk, Slater.
The question I have for you, as now I'm just belaboring this point, but yours is an opinion that I'm fascinated to hear from. What do you make of Jasson Dominguez at this point in his career? Because we have gone from being a player who is among the most famous prospects in the sport, a player whose EVs and whose minor league statistics were popping off the page, it goes without saying, and then a player who about last year this time, we kind of learned maybe he can't play left all that well. Maybe he can't hit lefties at all. And what the Yankees have done in the way in which they've used him, it's kind of distress the asset while at the same time not building an on-ramp for him to play much at the big league level, especially having brought back Grisham and brought back Bellinger. And I feel that he's just kind of in a holding pattern without the opportunity to develop. But at the same time, you don't want to trade him for 50 cents on the dollar, considering a year ago he was very much a prized asset. So how do you make heads and tails of what the player that Dominguez has become and what his trajectory might look like?
This is such a tough thing for me to do, and I'm going to try my best because I covered him at like every level of the minors. So like, I'm surprised to
That's
see.
why I asked.
Yeah, no, thanks you. And I'm surprised to see like how it hasn't translated how we thought. Like I thought the ceiling was always a little bit outstretched. Honestly, like all the high hype was probably a little bit too much. But like I definitely thought he would be a little bit better. He's still like a league average bat, even with his struggles against lefties. So it's not like he can't hit at all, but he does really not do well against lefties. Like I definitely saw him pop a few bombs in the minors right-handed, like in a big spot too, actually in the championship game. So like I think it's in there. He's naturally right-handed, so it's interesting that that side's gotten worse. Well, that's a little odd, but like the defense is concerning. Yeah, I know he's worked on it a lot with Rojas. I'm not sure. It's almost like a mental thing, I think, because I think he has the skill to play left field. Like his speed is still good enough in theory, but like. And maybe the Yankees Stadium left field is also really tough, but they've pigeonholed him now. I don't know because like but Stan will get hurt, so there will be an opportunity for him, if you look at it that way. But they are looking at righty platoon options, so then what happens with him? I don't know. Like, are they going to try to send it back down to get the value up, which I don't know if that's the way I would do it. I would not recommend that, probably. I don't know if that's really going to go over so well. And then you still have Spencer Jones. Like, you have two of them. You have three full outfielders. Like, I don't know. Like, is there a trade out there I'm not thinking about that would be better for both sides? I think it's tough to trade him after everything that's been invested into him and like how high the hopes were. So I'm definitely on the fence, but I still think he could be an above average big leaguer. Probably not a star, but like at least above average.
I think that it all comes back to me to the Trent Grisham QO. I don't know if Brian Cashman was expecting him to
Yeah,
accept the QO, but I'm fascinated to see how the Yankees offseason would have transpired
me
had he
too.
not accepted it, because this glut that they have in the outfield would not have been a problem that would have been this exacerbated. And then all of a sudden, you might feel more freedom to mix and match Dominguez and play to his
I
strengths.
agree with you.
And maybe you could have found another piece aside from Grisham to be more versatile and add. Maybe
Yes,
instead of Grisham, you have a right-handed bat in your lineup, and maybe you can find some other multi-positional player. Whatever,
I agree.
it's like a game
I
of Jenga,
agree.
right?
I
Once
love
you pull a
this.
block out, then obviously they all come crashing down. But when the offseason's tempo was set by the Grisham decision, everything then fell in line. And while he is a good player, I don't think any of us would be surprised if he regresses considerably, considering the way in which his bat manifested last year for the first time in his career.
I agree with you. I was not in love with that at all. I was not too thrilled with it. I thought it could have. I didn't think it was necessary to give him 22 million for a season. Personally, they could have figured out other ways and maybe balanced the line about better. I don't know if he's going to do it again. You've really increased his salary and expectations. So is he going to live up to that? I don't know right now. I mean, there's some metrics that show that he might, but like again, that's not everything. Like we were talking about with Bellinger, that doesn't mean everything. They have more information than we do, obviously. So like they'll make these decisions. They say they weren't surprised. It seems like they may have been still because they're never gonna tell you. They're not gonna be like, oh yeah, like we'd expect them to take you. Like we're never gonna get that. Like if I drop the truth serum and cash, I do wonder like what he really thought though. Like I'd love to find out somehow.
I think Cashew, by the way, is really good, and I think there's no such thing as a bad 1 year deal.
Yeah,
But from the perspective of what this Yankees roster would look like or should look like, it's just the sort of one decision, the sort of one when you put the onus onto the player, and it's in his hands and not your own, and you don't control your own fate as an organization.
yeah, it's
That's what makes it
tough.
challenging, right? So
I
I think
agree
there's
with
a
you.
meaningful chance that he has a 3 or 4 win season and he runs it back. I also think there's a meaningful chance that he regresses even more in center, a position he doesn't play that well. He doesn't run
Yeah.
into as many pull side homers as he did last year, and all of a sudden that looks like a $22 million albatross, and you've not really figured out other problems, and the Dominguez issue still looms large.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the deal just because of that. Like, I think I wanted to see some changes, and they're basically running back the same offense. Even I know it was good in the regular season, I still have October concerns with it. Like you said, that left side of the infield is really rough. It's brutally bad. I'm going to switch you back to Bo since you're a Phillies guy, and the Phillies basically had the deal wrapped up. So how rough was that whole thing for you? And like, how well do you think he's going to play with the Mets? He's never played third. I would have liked him better as a second baseman, but it'll be interesting.
Suffice it to say that as a Phillies fan, I was exceedingly disappointed that it did not work out for Bo Bichette. Primarily because if the Phillies had interest in him dating back to November, there was no obvious reason for them to wait as long as they did to try and consummate this deal. Because if the Phillies had offered Bo 7 for 200 the same week that they offered Schwarber 5 for 150 to bring him back, I steadfastly believe that Bo Bichette would be a Philly
Yeah,
today. And the fact that they waited so long and messed around, they found out. And what the Mets wound up being
unfortunately.
able to do is pivot from Tucker to sign Bo Bichette, and the Phillies' best off ramp was JT Realmuto in a 3 for 45, which you and I probably agree is a ridiculous overpay
Yeah, it's
given his
rough.
age and diminishing skill set. So things worked out quite badly for the Phillies, and as a result, the National League East swung by 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 wins as a result of that.
That's a big
Because I'm
move.
telling you right now, Bo Bichette at the plate. I'm telling you right now. Remember where you heard this. Bo Bichette's going to have the best season of his career. Hitting,
Okay.
hitting, hitting behind Juan Soto is the best job in baseball. Aaron Judge knew it, right? Pete Alonso knew it. Juan Soto does is protect you from the front because he gets on base twice a game practically. And Bo Bichette has demonstrably been better as a hitter in his career with men on base. It's a 144 WRC plus. That's compared to 107 with the bases empty, which, as you might expect, is one of the biggest splits
Yeah.
of its kind. So I'm not that concerned about the defense because I think he has shortstop skills, albeit diminishing ones. Kai
Yes.
Correa, as you know, is their bench coach, who's a really good infield guy. I think he'll fake it and play fringe average defense at third base, or perhaps even better if he puts
Yeah.
it all together. So I view Bo Bichette as a player who's going to have a 3 or 4 win season for the Mets, and if they wind up winning the division by 2 or 3 games, that decision in and of itself is going to be the single biggest reason why.
Yeah, so I'll end you quick because I'm gonna go. First, I'm gonna give you some props. I got the book, got
Oh,
your
appreciate that.
numbers. I read this through and through. You did a good job with Greeny. So, like, how cool was that process of like becoming an offer? I know you have two other books as well, and I'm gonna definitely look into those in the future. So, How rewarding was it writing the book with Greedy?
Oh, exceedingly. And the fact that we got to do two more is awfully cool as well. I mean, I grew up reading sports books. I grew up listening to Mike and Mike on the radio. And so the fact that we've done three of those is obviously one of the most rewarding things that I've gotten to do in my career. I appreciate the plug, and I'll have to make sure you get your hands on those other two copies.
Awesome. Yes, I will definitely take those. I loved Mike and Mike too. I grew up on them as well, so it's definitely cool. So I'm gonna end you here. We're gonna switch sports, but it's Super Bowl week. So Seahawks Patriots, give me your predictions and maybe some X factors quick.
You got it. I'll do it as quickly as I can. The Seahawks are going to win this game, and it's not going to be in doubt. We'll know who the winner of the Super Bowl is going to be by the end of the third quarter, primarily because this Seahawks team is just a wagon. They're so much more battle tested than the Patriots are. They have more ways in which they can beat you, and the Patriots' offensive line is such that I'm confident that the Seahawks pass rush is going to be the single biggest reason why that game is disrupted. Drake May has not had the kind of postseason that he had regular season, and if he doesn't play big, I don't see much of a scenario in which the New England Patriots can go toe to toe with a team that's demonstrably more talented. This is a team that's outscored its opponent by 230 points, that's trailed for only about 3 hours of game time
Wow.
in 19 games this season. And even though Sam Darnold has been at least somewhat turnover prone, there's enough artillery there, especially Jackson Smith and Jigba, to ensure that they move the football down the field. I think effectively against the Patriots team that's obviously been playing great defensively, but they've not gone up against the kind of quarterbacks that or the kind of offenses that Seattle has. So I'll give you a score, and I'll say it's something like 27-10. This is
Okay.
going to be a game in which we're going to be doing other things by the fourth quarter and putting
Wow.
up Super Bowl spreads. So.
Okay, that was great. I actually agree with most of that because I just think the Seahawks are a mismatch. I know Darnold, as being a Jets fan, watching him back in the day, was like definitely been a roller coaster of emotions. But I don't hold ill will towards him. It's an organizational failure. I want to see him win it because obviously I don't like the Patriots. So I just really want to see him get that revenge on the ghost game, and hopefully exactly what you say takes place. Like I'll be rooting hard for the Seahawks and Darnold.
I got you, buddy. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Hembo. We had the great Hembo on, ESPN producer, has written several books with Mike Greenberg, including one in my possession, Got Your Number. And we're looking forward to seeing what more stuff he has. Check him out on Twitter and Instagram. He drops great statistical breakdowns of baseball, football, and a few other things as well. And I appreciate your time. This was very fun. And you could check him out on his platform. So if you want to drop your handles, go ahead.
I'm at Paul Hembo anywhere you can find me. I appreciate your time. It's always fun talking ball, and I hope we get to do it again sometime during the season.
Yes, I will be more than willing. As long as you're good, I'm good. So everyone,
Boy.
check me out on the Julian Gallardi Show. You subscribe to Julian Gallardi on YouTube. Instagram is Julian Gallardi 11. X Twitter is Julian Gallardi 1. And then TikTok and Facebook, you search my name. So thanks again, Hembo. We are out.